Once I picked the guitar up and was decent enough to play a couple songs, I started playing for friends and family and kind of started going to some open mic night.
Before he would transform himself into country music's most likable, humble, and bankable star, well, Luke Combs was born on March 2nd, 1990 in Charlotte, North Carolina, and raised in nearby Asheville, where he moved when he was only 8 years old. Now, in that mid-sized town of just over 90,000 souls, well, Luke's parents, they worked regular gigs. Now, his mom at the local bank, and his father as a maintenance man. Now, both of his parents, they loved music, especially the sounds of Tom Petty, John Mellencamp, Led Zeppelin, and Garth Brooks, all of whom they introduced their son to at a very young age. Now, this musical exposure led to the discovery that Luke, he had a gift himself. It turns out the kid, he could really sing. His best friend from that period of his life, whom now works as his assistant, Austin Harper, well, he would tell Vulture, there wasn't a genre he couldn't do. Anything from Al Green to John Prine to T-Pain. Now, as a teen, well, Luke Combs, he would often showcase his talent at parties in high school to impress a few ladies. But it wasn't until he became a student at Appalachian State University that he began to take music a little bit more seriously. Now, originally, Luke, he had career goals that had nothing to do with singing or performing. In fact, he was at Appalachian State to study criminal justice in the hopes of becoming a homicide detective.
My major was criminal justice. I wanted to be a homicide detective is actually what I wanted to do, which is people are pretty surprised by a lot of times.
But during his time there, well, Luke, he got himself the occasional gig singing country cover songs at a local bar, and that's when he finally started to believe that he could potentially perform as a musician for a living. So he decided to shoot his shot at the industry by auditioning for the popular television competition show known as The Voice. Now, Luke made it through a number of cuts as the talent pool had dwindled from around 10,000 people to just 200. But while Luke, he could clearly sing his ass off, well, the producers of the series still didn't think he was interesting enough to boost the show's ratings. So yeah, he didn't make the cut. Now, that summer following his junior year, well, Luke, he was feeling particularly down on himself and wondering if he was making the right life choices. Now, he loved singing and could hold his own with the best of them, but outside of that, well, he couldn't play a single instrument, let alone read music. Now, when his mom saw him sulking on the front porch, well, she reminded him that neither Kenny Chesney or Tim McGraw, well, they learned how to play the guitar until they were 21 years old. Now, Luke Combs, well, he knew he wasn't going to make it on his own, so in 2014, he met Rob Wilford, a singer-songwriter from Nashville, through a high school science teacher named Lenora Crabtree. Now, at the time, well, Luke, he was roommates with Lenora's son at college, and Rob, well, he didn't exactly respond favorably to the idea. He told Vulture, I'm thinking, I can't be bothered with this. I'm a bona fide songwriter. Basically, I felt like, man, you're an incredible singer, but you're like a karaoke singer. Your songs are terrible, and I'm sure he thought I was an asshole. Now, wanting to do a solid for his former teacher, well, Rob agreed to a meeting with Luke anyway, and 2 weeks later, well, they were bonding over a mutual affection for the music of Eric Church, and from that point forward, well, Rob agreed to work with Luke, and he continued telling Vulture, and that's when we really became best friends. Like the movie Step Brothers. I think there's something really organic in the law of attraction that works in his favor. So Luke dropped out of college, then he and Rob, they cramped up in his rundown silver Dodge Neon to head out to Nashville, where for nearly a year, well, they performed small gigs together. Now, at the time, well, Luke, he still only had a few original songs to his name, and he filled the rest of his set with covers. Slowly but surely, a dedicated fan base, they began to spread through word of mouth as well, as on Vine, where Luke often posted clips of himself performing. Now, things ramped up even further when Luke's future manager, Chris Cappy, well, he came into the picture in May of 2015. Now, Chris, he had a background in booking musical performances on cruises, including everyone from John Mayer to Kiss. Now, based out of Atlanta, well, he also occasionally organized club gigs to offset his day job. Now, that soon wound up including a set for Luke at the 40 Watt Club in Athens, Georgia. Chris found himself shocked when close to 100 people showed up, ready to sing along with every one of Luke's songs. Now, that's when he recognized that Luke had a special connection with his fan base and persuaded Luke to let him come on board as his manager. Now, shortly thereafter, well, Luke, he was selling out 1,000-seat venues in the Southeast and listening to his music for the first time on local country radio. Then the rest of Nashville, they began to take notice, including Columbia, who would soon become Luke's new home in October of 2016. Now, his breakthrough track, it would become Hurricane, a song he had released earlier on iTunes that quickly became a staple of his live performances. By May of 2017, well, Hurricane, it had hit #1, and it would stay there for 2 weeks, making Luke the first male solo artist to have a multi multi-week #1 debut single since Darius Rucker, Don't Think I Don't Think About It, in 2008. A few weeks later would see the release of his debut album, This One's For You, featuring the top charting singles When It Rains It Pours and One Number Away. Now that record, it would become an absolute monster, staying at #1 on the top country albums chart for 50 weeks, which was another record for a male artist. Now in November of 2017, Luke would sell out 2 nights at Nashville's iconic Ryman Auditorium in less than 60 seconds. And by the time he released his sophomore studio album, What You See Is What You Get, well, he was beginning to book arenas. And if you think we're done yet, no, the guy was still growing in popularity. Today, Luke Combs is unquestionably one of the biggest acts in all of country music. Now, if you don't believe me, well, just take one look at his record-breaking 14 #1 singles to date, including one of his most recent, Doing This, which was the lead single to his 3rd studio album, Growing Up, released in 2022. In point of fact, Luke, he hasn't yet released a single that hasn't topped the Billboard Country Airplay charts, and he's sold out every single one of his shows over the past 5 years, which is an accomplishment that even Luke is still sometimes surprised by. He told Vulture, "It's very humbling. I always knew I'd put in the work because I love what I do, but I still never expected anything like this, especially this fast. It honestly still doesn't even really feel real." Now, selling out football fields is something that those in the industry still see as skimming the surface of what Luke is ultimately capable of. Recently, he's begun touring all around the world in Europe and Australia, and soon he'll be looking to travel to Asia as well, playing in countries like Japan. Now, to that end, this past November, well, Luke was named as Entertainer of the Year at the CMA Awards, one of the industry's absolute highest honors. And just a few days before the release of this episode, well, Luke, he unleashed his newest album, Getting Old, a companion piece of Growing Up that he recorded at the same time, but he held off on releasing until March of 2023. Now, that probably has something to do with the fact that despite his monumental success, well, Luke is still the same humble artist he's always been, who's simply looking for ways to get better. Now, will his career earn him a spot on the Mount Rushmore of country singers? Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. After all, this has been before they're famous. Now, before I leave you guys, I do have a question for you. How important is it that a musical artist can play an instrument as well as sing? I mean, Lady Gaga ain't getting up there and playing nothing. I don't take it from her. She's still one of the best. But that ain't country. In country, it's a little different, right? I mean, rappers don't have to make beats. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, we're gonna leave you with a previously uploaded video to tie things off, so let's roll Jelly Roll at the end of this one. Enjoy it. I'll see you guys in another video. Boom!
It's plenty of love. Game on the White Boy Volume 4 coming soon. You know it's love when you go places like this with no security or nothing like that. And just walk. Y'all know what it is. Jelly Roll, Totem Pole.
Before Jelly Roll would become one of the most prominent hip-hop rappers in all of music, thanks to hit songs like Break the Knob Off, Creature, and Save Me. Before Jelly Roll would find himself being sued by his favorite restaurant chain, the Waffle House, for naming one of his mixtapes after the popular eatery.
What was the resolution of the Waffle House lawsuit?
They took everything down, man. I lost. They cleaned my ass up.
What?
I got a cease and desist letter and a lawsuit.
Before Jelly Roll would have over 74,000 followers on Twitter, 657,000 followers on Instagram, and over 1.65 million subscribers on YouTube at the time of this recording. Jelly Roll is a 34-year-old rapper hailing from Antioch, Tennessee, who has eaten at Waffle House more times than he cares to count. And while it might not be the only reason why Jelly Roll weighs around 450 pounds, it sure as hell is a contributing factor.
It's just that road, man. The road is hard. We toured 150, 200 days a year.
Pretty much eat out of gas stations and Denny's and Waffle Houses.
In fact, Jelly Roll is such a big fan of this fine establishment that when it came time to create his breakout record, he chose to include Waffle House in the title, a decision that he would wound up throwing his entire life into upheaval. But for a man whose childhood included robbery, selling drugs, and large amounts of time spent in and out of jail, this was nothing but another speed bump along the way to becoming one of the most popular independent rappers around. Today I'm going to be telling you about how he accomplished this remarkable feat. Hey, what's poppin', guys? It's your boy Marlon Palmer. Recent drops in the series have included looks at Whistle and Diesel and Hasbulla Magomedov. Please go check out Hasbulla Magomedov. Crazy story. Since this show works off request, don't forget to leave us some ideas with who you want to see next in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys after the intro. Jelly Roll was born Jason DeFord on December 4th, 1986, and much to even his own surprise, no, he wasn't delivered inside of a Waffle House. Instead, Jason grew up in Nashville, Tennessee in the Southside community known as Antioch.
I'm from Antioch, Tennessee, right? I was born and raised in Antioch, Tennessee. Well, I guess I was born downtown at Baptist Hospital, but went straight to Antioch, and that's where I spent my whole life.
As he himself has said, his childhood is simply yet another case of the tried and true sad rapper story. When Jason was still only a teenager, his father left his mother, and it wasn't long after that when Jason began acting out. In fact, at the age of just 14, he went to juvenile hall for the first time after catching an armed robbery charge. Why did he take such drastic action at such a young age? Well, because he was trying to take care of his mother, who had no one else to look after her. As a young kid, the only people Jason saw with any type of money on them were drug dealers, so he dropped out of high school and began selling drugs to make a living. Speaking with Gawker, Jason told him, "I rolled around and sold 8 balls of cocaine and crack all day and rapped about it. I should have just called it the stories of the unsuccessful drug dealer." When you're an unsuccessful drug dealer, like, is it even worth it? Like, after month 3, I'm just packing it in. Jason's dangerous and illegal occupation had him constantly returning to prison to serve time, and he told Gawker that by the time he was 28, he had spent roughly a dozen years in and out of the penal system, serving sentences for marijuana and cocaine possession.
10 years ago, I was charged as an adult. From juvenile, I was 17 years old, had just turned 17. I was locked up for quite a substantial amount of time. The judge found it fit to charge me as an adult before I was 18 years old.
Thankfully for Jason, his other passion was for music, something he grew up loving ever since his earliest moments of dancing with his mother in the kitchen to old Motown records. But as much as Jason loved music, the idea of creating it for a living seemed like nothing more than a pipe dream. Over time, however, the priorities in Jason's life began to change. At 24, he earned his GED, and around that same time, he fathered a daughter named Bailey with a bartender who came out as a lesbian while still pregnant with his daughter. That sounds like a really juicy Maury episode. I might need that remade. With few professional opportunities available to a heavily tattooed 400-pound paroled felon with a little girl to take care of, Jason's job options were scarce to say the least. So he decided to turn his lifelong passion of rap music and take it to the limit. Jason began taking rap seriously in the early 2000s. As a fat kid who's always loved his donuts, Jason decided to use his mom's old nickname for him of Jelly Roll as his moniker, and he teamed up with other local underground artists like Lil White and Haystack to drop his earliest releases like Year Round and Strictly Business. Man, if my mom called me Jelly Roll, nah, that's actually mad cute. I'm not gonna lie, that's mad cute. His own debut solo album, The Big Sal Story, dropped in 2012, and he followed that up with the 2013 mixtape that would change his life, Whiskey, Weed, and Waffle House. A killer combination if you've ever been to like Atlanta or the South. That's beautiful. After printing 100,000 copies of his 21-track free mixtape, Jason hit the streets to give them all away. The problem was, Waffle House was none too happy about the dilution of their brand and served Jelly Roll with a lawsuit that let him know about it. Suddenly, everyone was talking about the independent rapper whose career Waffle House was trying to kill in its infancy. Soon after he was served, Jason couldn't even access his Facebook or YouTube profiles, as Waffle House's reps had filed trademark claims that shut him out of his account for more than a week. First of all, Waffle House reps? This is a thing?
The two words beside each other, Waffles here and House is here, they own it. If you were writing a fictitious book and had never heard of a Waffle House, and you were like, and the couple stopped by this restaurant called Waffle House, they could sue you in that book.
By that point, Jason had poured everything he had into this album, both emotionally and financially. And now he had to destroy every copy he had made to rename the album and remake the cover art. The entire process left Jelly Roll feeling mad disappointed that the one place he had spent so much time and money, ordering his go-to meal of scrambled eggs with cheese, wheat toast, hash browns smothered with cheese alongside some sausage and a chocolate chip waffle, was trying to end him. When speaking with Gawker, he told them how upset he was. "I'm 450 pounds. I should have sued Waffle House 10 years ago. Do you know how many all-star breakfasts I bought in my life? I might have stopped at 330 pounds. Thankfully, all the press he got from the ensuing controversy more or less led to the opposite happening. His next solo project, Sobriety Sucks, became one of his most successful hits, landing at the 12th spot on the Billboard R&B charts. Jelly Roll on the Billboard R&B charts is something I did not have on my bingo card. Eventually, Jelly Roll and Waffle House settled their beef, and Jason has continued to, well, roll on with his career. Waffle House needs to put that man in a commercial, at the very least. Over the past few years, Jason has largely sobered up and moved on from his drug-heavy past, which was a large topic of his Sobriety Sucks album. He ended up realizing that it was time to get clean when he failed a random drug screen test ordered by his parole officer a few years ago. Speaking with Anna Bernard at MySpace, he told him, "I failed for about everything you could fail for, but crystal, meth, and heroin. I blamed it on everything but myself. I can only talk about it now because it's over. But I was on codeine, I was drinking a lot of cough syrup. It was bad, man. It was hard to come off of." He also put in the hard work to lose a whole bunch of weight after his doctors told him he might not live to see 30 if he stayed as heavy as he was. So Jelly Roll got to walking miles each day and dropped a whole bunch of weight. Good for him.
When I first started walking this trail, it kicked my mother ass. success. Today, this mother felt completely different. Hard work, baby. Believe in yourself.
Unfortunately, once he hit the road again to tour, a lot of that weight found its way back. But Jelly Roll is determined to lose it once again, this time for good with the help of a professional trainer.
I was a whole different dude. So I talked to my buddy Ed Clay, who's like a mentor of mine. He plugged me in with a nutritionist named George Lockhart. Reached out to George, instantly hit it off and became buddies. I once again procrastinated, gained more weight. I have hit rock bottom. Called George up and said, Bubba, I really need you. He said, I'm on the way, and here we are.
His decision to embrace a healthier and sober lifestyle has led him to creating over a dozen different albums, mixtapes, and EPs since 2013 alone, including his most recent album, A Beautiful Disaster and Self-Medicated, which dropped in March and October of last year respectively, with A Beautiful Disaster becoming his highest charting album yet, reaching the #9 spot on the Billboard Independent charts. As for where Jelly Roll's musical career goes from here, well, that's a story for another time and another place. After all, this is before they're famous. Be sure to let us know what you think of his story in the comments down below. I remember the first time I saw Jelly Roll was actually an Andrew Schultz music video called Open Her Up. Crazy, funny, really dope stuff. So it's amazing to see him flourish. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at Before They're Famous to vote on what's next. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.